Beneath the desolate moonlight of Mesopotamia there once stood a miraculous city called Dur-Sharrukin. Its master, Sargon II, was the undisputed peak ruler of the Assyrian Empire. Yet on the 100th day after the capital's completion, this emperor vanished mysteriously on a distant battlefield. Tonight, let us step into this sealed dream city and uncover the fate of Sargon II, buried by the sands of time. Some achieve greatness by conquering the world. Others achieve it by building a dream. Sargon II, known as the true king, devoted his entire life to planting a city in the desert. But he probably never imagined that when the first rays of dawn lit up his palace, they also marked the beginning of his eternal night. Close your eyes and journey with me 3,000 years back in time to hear the quiet echoes of Sargon II. If history is a fantasy, then Sargon II was its most devoted dreamer. He built the world's largest palace for himself, only to perish in a foreign desert just as he was about to enjoy it. The capital was abandoned with him, the palace withered with him. What does this extreme splendor and sudden annihilation signify? Tonight, by the faint firelight, we will not speak of war, only of Sargon II and his lost city of dreams. Imagine deep in the desert 3,000 years ago, a giant city shimmering with glazed tiles rising almost overnight. 7 gates guarded its pride, tens of thousands of man-made canals flowed silently underground like the pulse of the earth. This city was called Dur-Sharrukin, and every brick bore the same name, Sargon II. Yet 100 days after this dream city was completed, its prosperity came to an abrupt halt. Tonight, by the softly flickering fire, let us enter his real life through a story you do not have to struggle to remember. He was the supreme ruler of the Assyrian Empire, a man who made kings tremble on the battlefield yet contemplated the stars in his own gardens. Sargon II, a name meaning the true king, left history with his greatest mystery, his almost uncanny disappearance. How could an emperor who wielded the highest power over the known world choose, at his most glorious moment, to embark on a journey with no return? We will not rush for answers. Now, let your breathing grow steady and walk with me into that night buried by yellow sand. Sargon II's reign began in an unspeakable darkness. Assyrian records are strangely brief and vague about how he came to wear the heavy crown. He was not a natural heir, but more like a shadow thrust onto the stage by fate amid the ruins of an old era. This obscure beginning made Sargon II more eager than anyone to prove his legitimacy. He even took the name Sargon to revive the glory of his great ancestor from 1,000 years before. Standing on the ancient walls of Nineveh, looking out at a vast yet fractured empire, he must have felt a loneliness like never before. Every crack in power whispered to him, reminding him how fragile his foundation was as the new master. He began waging frequent wars, not for destruction, but to confirm his existence through conquest amid bloodshed. From the altars of Babylon to the mountains of Israel, his chariots crushed countless rebellions and pushed the empire's borders to unprecedented limits. Even so, late at night Sargon II could still feel an emptiness inside him that no military victory could ever fill. To escape the ancient capital filled with shadows of the past, Sargon II made an almost mad decision. He would create a perfect kingdom of his own from nothing in the wilderness north of Nineveh. He named it Dur-Sharrukin, meaning Fortress of Sargon. It was the first time in human history that a massive city was planned with such precision. He gathered the finest craftsmen, sculptors, and astronomers from across the empire. Every brick was rigorously selected, every cedar beam transported across thousands of miles of forest. During the years of construction, Sargon II often stayed up all night, sitting in his tent surrounded by city plans. He was not merely building a city, but reshaping his own soul and silencing all criticism. When the giant Lamassu statues with human heads and winged lions were placed at the palace gates, Sargon II stood beneath them, small yet sacred. He ran his hand over the hard stone texture as if touching an eternal promise. The palace interior was filled with reliefs depicting his great deeds, every detail proclaiming that Sargon II was the sole one chosen by the gods. In 706 BC, Dur-Sharrukin was officially completed. Celebrations lasted for months. Envoys from all over the world wandered dazzled in the glow of gold and glaze, while Sargon II sat on his ivory throne overlooking his masterpiece. At that moment, he finally filled the missing part of legitimacy in his life. He had become a creator, a god himself. But the irony of fate is that when a person's desires are completely fulfilled, the fuse of destruction is lit. Only a few months later, an urgent message arrived from the northern border. Nomadic tribes known as Cimmerians were raiding the frontier. For a victorious general like Sargon II, this should have been an easy campaign. Yet at nearly 60 years old, he insisted on taking up arms personally and left his newly finished dream city. Some said he was tired of palace comfort. Others claimed it was one last attempt to mask inner unease through battle. In a chaotic battle in Anatolia, Sargon II's chariot vanished into the rolling yellow sand. When Assyrian soldiers regrouped, they found the emperor not only dead but his body completely gone. In the beliefs of that era, dying in battle with no remains was a sign of total curse and abandonment by the gods. Sargon II's disappearance dealt a devastating spiritual blow to the entire Assyrian Empire. His successor, his son Sennacherib, took an action that puzzles later generations. On the very first day of his reign, he ordered a complete abandonment of the newly built, golden city of Dur-Sharrukin. It was as if the city of miracles was a tomb stained with misfortune and sin. The dream Sargon II had built with half his life became a ghost town within a single year. Inside the magnificent palace, exquisite tapestries faded, underground drainage pipes slowly clogged with sand. The statues once raised to praise Sargon fell silent under wind erosion, guarding a city with no inhabitants. Why did Sennacherib hate and fear his father's capital so deeply? Perhaps because in that age of theocracy, his father's tragic death was seen as a rejection of all his achievements. Sargon II had hoped to live forever through this city, yet it instead became an awkward blank page in history. Dur-Sharrukin collapsed in silence, faded into dust, and was only rediscovered 3,000 years later by the shovels of archaeologists. Now, as we look back on Sargon II, what do you think he was thinking? On that cold night in Anatolia before the final battle, did he sense his fate? Perhaps he always knew Dur-Sharrukin could not last, for no city on earth could hold absolute legitimacy. His life was a long chase, for fame, for righteousness, for peace that needed no explanation to anyone. Today, those Lamassu statues rest quietly in museums around the world, their gaze still piercing through time. They hold no sorrow or anger, only calm observation of every passerby. Sargon II is gone, his city is gone, but the courage to dream in the desert remains in this gentle story. There is no need to judge his merits or faults, nor to mourn the fall of his city. For in the endless dark, all splendor eventually turns to a soft breath beside your pillow. Your breathing steadies, the world grows quiet. Sargon II's dream has ended, and your peaceful dream is just beginning. Good night. May you find your own starry sky amid the quiet echoes of the lost city.